All right, so with the previous lectures that we had on consumption, we looked at Keynes' absolute income hypothesis, and then we looked at the Evan Fisher's intertemporal consumption choice. Okay, and we saw that under Keynes, when they use data, when they compared the theory to data, they found out that cross-sectional data and then short-run time series confirmed Keynes conjectures. But when they used the long-run time series, they found out that APC wasn't constant with increase in income. So the other economists tried to use other theories to explain the consumption puzzle. So when we looked at the intertemporal consumption choice, we saw that unlike Keynes, consumption doesn't only depend on current income, okay, but it rather depends on the present value of the individual's lifetime income. So this is what we saw from Evan Fisher's theory. So here, consumption at any period is a positive function. It's a positive function of the present value of income. So that is something that we saw from the previous and also we saw that because the person is allowed to borrow and to lend, it doesn't really matter where the change in consumption comes from, whether the increase in income is coming from the current period or the future period. It will still affect consumption for all the periods, okay, for all the periods. So even if you're in the first period and then we see an increase in income in the second period, it will still affect the current period consumption. So your consumption at any period doesn't only depend on income at that period, but your lifetime income. Sorry. These are the conjectures that Keynes stated. Okay, we have looked at all these things already. The MPCs between 0 and then 1, and then APC falls with an increase in income, and that income is the main determinant of consumption. Interest rate and all the other stuff do not affect the level of consumption. Okay, so those were the things stated by Keynes. But then when they use data like what Samuel Kaznet did, this is what they found out, that for cross-sectional data, yes, MPC was less than APC in that MPC was between 0 and then 1. For short time or short run time series data too, they found out that APC falls whenever there's an increase in income. But then when they use the long run time series data, they found out that APC was exactly the same as MPC because APC didn't change with increase in income. So this is the consumption puzzle that we have been trying to solve. So all the latter consumption theories that came were trying to solve the consumption puzzle. Why is it that a group of data will support what he said and then other forms of data wouldn't? Okay, so here we'll be looking at the life cycle hypothesis and then the permanent income hypothesis. They all base their theories on Evan Fisher's intertemporal consumption choice model. Okay, so they all base their theories on the idea that consumption doesn't only depend on current income, but it should depend on the lifetime something. So today we'll look at the life cycle hypothesis and then the permanent income hypothesis. Okay. So first, let's look at the life cycle hypothesis. Please let me just explain everything. If we say we are going by the slides, it will take too much time. I want to explain the whole theory, what the theory is just about. If you take the life cycle hypothesis, the belief is that when an individual begins life, okay, for example, when you are in school, you are not working. So at that early stages in life, your consumption tends to be more than your income level. So when you begin life, you are a net borrower because you consume more than what you earn. But then when you get to your middle years or your youthful ages, there you have higher productivity because you start to work. So because you start to work at that time, you earn quite a lot of money. So your income in the middle years will be higher than that of your consumption. So what the individual does is that he will use part of this higher income in the middle years to pay for the amount of money that he borrowed during the early stages of life. Okay, then he will save part of this money for retirement. So by the time the person goes on retirement, there too your productivity is low. You won't be working at all. So your consumption will definitely be more than your income. So what the individual does is that, sorry, when it gets to the retirement years, you have to dissave. You have to run down all the savings that he did during the middle years. Okay, then by the time he dies, he should have spent all the savings that he did. So at the early stages and at the latter stages in life, we consume more than what we earn. Okay, but in the middle years, we earn more than what we consume. So we are able to use this money to pay for whatever debt that we owe from the early stages of life, and then we save some for the latter stages of life. So you see, it's like a life cycle, something from the time you start life up to the time you start working until when you go to retirement. So basically, that is what the life cycle hypothesis is about. We can explain it using wealth. When you begin life, the sorry, you start to create wealth. Okay, you start to create wealth. I mean, from the early stages up to the time that you go on retirement. So as soon as you go on retirement, then you run down all the wealth that you created during your youthful years. Okay, so you just make sure that by the time you die, you should have spent all this wealth that you created. Okay, so basically, that is what the life cycle hypothesis is about. But then we'll find the life cycle consumption function, and then we'll see how we can use the life cycle consumption function to solve the consumption puzzle. Okay, to solve the consumption puzzle. So basically, here too, the individual is allowed to save and borrow. So in the years where you earn more income, like the middle years that I was talking about, there you can save. Okay, when you save, then you push these savings to years of lower income levels. Like after your retirement, you don't have much money there, so you have to consume what you were able to save. And then at your early stages in life, you are able to consume because you are consuming against your expected future income, the money that you used to pay for your debt. Okay. So basically, the life cycle was about retirement. Because you go on retirement, when you are working, you make sure you save some amount of money so that you can use it when you are not working again. Okay, when you are not working again. All right. All right. So unlike what King said, that your consumption just depends on your current income. For the life cycle, for the life cycle hypothesis, the theory sees the individual as picking savings and consumption behavior over a long period of time, or almost like over the person's entire life. It's not about your current condition or period at all. No. Okay, so they are thinking about their entire lifetime. So you make sure that you are allocating your consumption in the best possible way over your entire life. So it's not going to be like at a point or at a period in your life, you'll be spending so much. Then you get to another period where you don't have anything to spend at all. No, the individual tries to smoothen consumption over his entire life. That's the reason why the person is able to move money from periods of higher income to periods of lower income levels. Okay, so here it's not about current consumption being just related to current income at all. Your lifetime money that you have, you make sure you allocate it in the best possible way over your entire life. And those who just joined, we are looking at the life cycle hypothesis, okay? The life cycle hypothesis. And we are saying that this is just a consumption theory that tries to explain how consumers can save money during periods of high income and send it to periods of lower income. So during the beginning of life and then the latter stages in life, there you don't have much money. You tend to consume more than what you earn. Okay, but then when in the middle years of the individual, their productivity is very high. He's able to earn quite a lot of money. So he will use part of this money to pay for the debt, the borrowing that he did when he wasn't working. And then he will save part of this money and then use this when he goes on retirement. So this is the pattern of consumption and saving according to the life cycle hypothesis. This is the early stages of life. Here you can see that consumption is more than income. This is the income curve. This is the consumption curve. So here, at the early stages in life, the individual is a net borrower because he's consuming more than what he earns. When you get to the latter stage, just before the person dies, here too, consumption is more than income. So in between these two, we take this as the middle years for this individual. Okay. And for this stage, you see that income is more than consumption. So because he's earning more than what he consumes, he can use part of this income to pay for the debt that he owes from the early years. Then saves part of that money for retirement. So when he goes on retirement, then he just desaves. Okay, so he will run down all the savings that he did in the youthful years. Okay, so that is for the life cycle hypothesis. Okay, we can also use this idea to explain the LCH. As the person begins life, he tries to accumulate wealth. Okay, because in those years, income is more than consumption, so he's able to save. So he'll try to accumulate this wealth until he goes on what? On retirement. During retirement, you tend to consume more than what you earn. So you dissave. Okay, you dissave. So you dissaving means that you are running down the wealth that you've accumulated. So by the time your life ends, you should have used up all the wealth that you created until your retirement age. Okay, so it's like the thing is talking about how the person consumes, the consumption and savings behavior of the individual over his entire life. So there's a reason why we are saying they all base their theories on Evan Fisher's intertemporal consumption choice. So you are talking about the entire lifetime of this individual. Right. So what is the main difference between the life cycle hypothesis and the Keynes absolute income hypothesis? If you remember, under Keynes, we have just one marginal propensity to consume. Okay, out of your income, the MPC is just fixed because of the psychological rule of thumb. If you have this amount of money, you consume this percentage. Okay, but for the life cycle, because we are talking about the entire life of this individual, we don't have the MPC is not just out of your income, your current income, but it's out of permanent income, transitory income, and then the person's wealth. Permanent income is the type of income that the individual believes will persist into the future. Okay, if you believe a source of income is permanent, it means that it is going to persist into the future. Transitory income is just temporal changes in income, like maybe you've won a bet, so you've gotten some amount of money. That thing cannot persist into the future. It's just transitory. It's just temporal. Okay, and then your wealth and the properties that you create. So here you consume out of all these sources of income, not just your current income at all. When we treat permanent income hypothesis, we talk much about permanent income and the transitory income. We see how they differ. Okay. So as I stated earlier, this hypothesis is based on consumption smoothing. Okay, it's not like the person or this individual will try to save so much in one period and spend so much in the other period. No, they want a stable lifestyle. So consumption is smoothing across the person's lifetime. Okay, so it's not like you try your possible best to starve yourself in one period so that when you get to the second period, then you can really enjoy life. No. If you have a lot of money now, you make sure you are saving some so that you can have a stable consumption level over your entire life. Okay, over your entire life. So that is the main assumption under the life cycle hypothesis. We are just interested in consumption smoothing. Have a stable lifestyle, a stable consumption and savings pattern over your entire life. Okay, over your entire life. All right, so if this assumption under the theory is true for a single individual, then we can say that it is true for the entire economy. So if an individual is going for a stable lifestyle, then it means that the whole economy too will be going for a stable lifestyle. So if you want the consumption behavior for the entire economy, you just sum up the behavior of all the individuals. Okay. So if the individual consumption function is stable over his lifetime, it is supposed to be the same for all the individuals in this economy, which means that on aggregation, the economy too should have a stable consumption function. So the economy is not just starving at one point and consuming so much in the other period. No, they try to smoothing consumption across their lifetime. Okay. So if this assumption is true for the entire economy, then it means that consumption at any period in the economy should be a certain percentage or a certain fraction of the present value of the economy's lifetime income. Okay. If we are talking about an individual too, you want to spread your consumption almost equally among the periods that you live. So consumption at any period at all is going to be a certain percentage or a certain fraction of the present value of your lifetime income. Okay, that's what we are saying. C1 is equal to KPV1. So in this case, the percentage of the present value of your income stream that you consume at period one. Okay, but now we have to know how to operationalize the PV. What are we calling the PV? The present value of what? What income exactly? Okay, so let's look how to how to get our present value. Now, according to the people that propounded this theory, they said that income, the individual's income is divided into one, income from work. Okay, when you work, the labor income, the income that you get from working, and then income from your assets and then your property or wealth. Okay, so the individual's income is divided into two, the income that he gets from working and the income that he gets or the benefit that he gets from his assets or properties. Maybe you have some land or some building. So whatever benefit that you are getting there, that is part of your income. And then if you are working too and you are earning income, that one too is part of your income. So when you add the two, then you get the person's total income. So over the person's lifetime, you discount this to get the present value of the person's income stream. So the PV will be given as this is what I was talking about. Y is divided into labor income and the permanent income from properties and then assets. Okay, so this is how we define our PV. The present value is going to be the present value of labor income. Okay, this is the number of years that the person will be living before he dies. Okay. So if we want the present value for the person's income stream, lifetime income stream, then we will have to discount all the labor incomes that this person is going to get over his entire life. Then you sum up from day one of living to time t, year t, the year that this person is going to die. So there's the present value for labor income. Then you do same for income from properties and then assets. Okay, income from properties and then assets. So when you add these two, then you get the present value that the hypothesis is talking about. Okay, so that's how we operationalize the present value of the individual's lifetime. Okay. Right. Let's look at this example. Assuming that so we have an individual whose life starts at 20. He wants to work for 65 years. And he wants to work until he's 65 years, then he stop working. And let's assume this person dies at 80 years. Okay, this person dies at 80 years. So let's see how we can get the consumption function from this. Now, let's use W or wealth to stand for the YP. Remember, the YP is the income from properties and assets. Okay, let's just use W. Okay, so when you see W wealth, we are talking about the income that you get from your assets and properties. Then let's just use Y to stand for income from earnings. Okay, when you work, your labor income that you get. Then assuming that the person is going to work for the number of years that the person is going to work before retirement, we represent it by R. So if you are going to work for 20 years, it means that R is equal to 20. Remember, we said T is the remaining number of years that the person is going to live before the person dies. Now W stands for wealth, and then Y stands for labor income or earned income. Okay, the income that you earn from working. So now the person's lifetime resources, all the resources that will be available to this person is going to be the sum of the person's wealth and the person's lifetime earnings. Let's define this R times Y. You want to work for R number of years, and for each year you are being paid Y. Okay, the Y is the labor income. So you'll be earning this labor income for R number of years, the number of years that you want to work. It means that your total lifetime resource is going to be the value of your wealth and your lifetime income that you earn from working, which is the R times Y. Okay, the R times Y. I hope we understand. Please, do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay, here we are assuming that the interest rate is 0. Okay, if interest rate is not 0, see that it's possible the person can save. So if we relax the assumption that interest rate is 0, then we will have to add the interest payment that the person will get on savings to the person's lifetime resources. But for easy analysis, we are assuming that interest rate is 0. So even if you save, you don't earn any extra money on your savings. So now we've already defined T. Okay. So now this individual would like to smoothen his consumption over his entire life. And by doing so, it means that you are dividing your total lifetime resources among the number of years that you'll be living until you die. Okay. We've seen that the total lifetime resources is the sum of the value of wealth and then earned income. So we divide this total lifetime resource by the remaining number of years, which is T. Okay, which is T. So when we do that, then the life cycle consumption function is equal to W plus RY divided by T, W plus RY divided by T. So when you simplify this, here, this first part here will be 1 over T times W. That's what we have here. and then this will be R over T times Y. So this is the life cycle consumption function. Consumption depends on the individual's wealth and then individual's end income, okay, income and from working. So this is a typical life cycle consumption function. Okay. Now let's use the example that we gave. The person's life started at 20 years, and then he wanted to work until 65 years. So what is going to be R? R stands for the number of years that the person is going to work. You started working at 20. You want to end working at 65. So you work for 45 years. And then you are 20 years. And then we assume that the person is expected to die at 80 years. So what is the number of the remaining years that this person has before he dies? That will be 80 minus 20. That's why T is equal to 60. Okay, T is equal to 60. So when we insert these values, check the consumption function. It was 1 over T, so 1 over 60. 1 over 60. Then this is R over T. R is 45. 45 over 60. So we get C is equal to 0.017 W plus 0.75 Y. Okay, 0.75 Y. Now, if you compare this consumption function to the usual Keynesian consumption function, see that one, we had an autonomous part. Consumption is equal to the sum of autonomous consumption and the income induced consumption, where this is the marginal propensity to consume. So if we hold wealth constant, assuming wealth doesn't change at all, then it means that this portion here is going to be a constant, which will mean that this consumption function is exactly the same as King's own. Okay, but in real life, wealth changes over time. Okay, with time, wealth changes. So this 0.017 is the marginal propensity to consume out of wealth. If you have your wealth, you consume 0.017% of it. And then this 0.75 is the marginal propensity to consume out of income. Okay, out of income. So out of your income, you always consume 75%. So this is the life cycle consumption function for this individual. Okay. So we can do this for the whole economy. Okay, so the consumption function will be alpha W plus beta Y, where the alpha is the marginal propensity out of wealth, and then beta is marginal propensity out of income. Okay, out of income. So as I was saying, if wealth is held constant, then this part becomes a constant, just like the autonomous consumption part in the Keynesian consumption function. So it means that the consumption functions will be the same, but we can't always hold wealth constant. Over time, wealth tends to increase with income. Okay. So this is what I was saying. If you hold wealth constant, then the life cycle hypothesis is giving us a consumption function which is exactly like that of Keynes. Okay, which is exactly like that of Keynes, but no, wealth cannot be held constant like that. So when you draw the life cycle consumption function, this is what you get. This is consumption, this is income. I'm sure you remember how to draw the Keynesian consumption function. It was just like this, but the intercept was the autonomous consumption component. Okay, autonomous consumption component. This is the life cycle consumption function. Here, the intercept is alpha wealth, alpha W. Okay, alpha W. So if wealth is constant, then it means that this intercept will be constant, and it will just be like the conventional consumption function that we have. Okay, but the intercept depends on wealth, and so if wealth isn't constant, then the intercept too wouldn't be constant at all. So what are the implications of this hypothesis? How can we use this to solve the consumption puzzle? First, we will have to check the average propensity to consume. APC is consumption over income. So when you divide the consumption by income, This part was by. So by over y will give us beta. The beta is just here. And then for this side, it was alpha w. So alpha w over y, we are getting a w over y here. Okay. Now let's compare this to the consumption puzzle. Okay. For the consumption puzzle, it was just about APC. Okay. It was about APC. That's cross section and then short runtime series data showed that APC falls whenever income increases. But the long runtime series showed that APC was constant, even if income increases. So let's look at how the life cycle consumption function solves that puzzle. Now, if you use short runtime series data, I mean, within shorter periods of time, wealth doesn't just change like that. If you have money today, it doesn't mean your wealth is going to change tomorrow. Okay, it takes a very long period of time before wealth changes. So when we use the cross-sectional data, that's data per individuals for shorter periods of time, we realize that even when income increases, wealth doesn't increase. Okay, wealth doesn't increase. So if y, which is the denominator, is increasing, holding the numerator, which is wealth constant, it means that this whole ratio will fall. W over y will fall. So if W over y is falling, then it means that as income increase, APC will fall. Okay, this is for, I mean, a shorter data for shorter periods of time. Okay, when y increases, W doesn't increase. I mean, in shorter periods of time. So W over y will fall, which means that average propensity to consume is going to fall. But over longer periods of time, like decades, from decades to decades, wealth moves together with income. When income increases over a very long period of time, wealth will also increase. So if income should increase by 20% and wealth increases proportionately also by 20%, then it means that W over Y wouldn't change. Alpha and beta are constants, they don't change. Sorry. So if income and wealth are moving together, then it means that there will be no change in APC at all. Y will go up, W will go up, so no change in W over Y. So in the long run, wealth and income will change together, so there will be no change in the average propensity to consume. So this is confirming or solving the consumption puzzle. In shorter periods of time, W doesn't change with Y. So when Y increases, APC falls. But in longer periods of time, wealth and then income will grow together. So when income increases, we expect wealth to also increase. So the ratio W over Y won't change at all. So APC is going to be constant. Okay, APC is going to be constant. All right. Okay, so I hope you understand how, sorry, we've used the life cycle consumption function to solve the consumption puzzle. We've seen how short runtime series, when we use short runtime series, APC falls when income rises, but in the long run, because wealth and income grow together, when income increases, wealth will also increase. So there will be no change in APC at all. Now we know that consumption and savings are just sisters. And when we are talking about consumption, indirectly, we are talking about savings too. Okay. We are talking about savings too. So the implication of this hypothesis on savings is that the savings of the individual will vary over the person's lifetime. There will be points where you save more. There will be other points where you don't even save at all. Okay, you just have to borrow when you are not working or something like that. So during the early years of the individual, the person is not working. If you are not working, what do? You have to borrow. So there you don't even save at all. When you are working, you save more, and then when you are on retirement, you try to save less. So you dissave all the amount of money that you saved. Okay, that you saved. So basically, this is the implication of the life cycle hypothesis. When you are working, try and accumulate wealth. When you go on retirement, then you try to dissave all the savings that you made. Okay, all the savings that you made. So basically, that is the life cycle hypothesis. All right, any question? The meeting is almost over, so let's wait. When it comes, when we rejoin, then we look at the permanent income hypothesis.